Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Thrive. It's Carly, and I am here with my beautiful friend, beautiful client, Riannah. Riannah
Hello.
is a hypnotherapist, author, and speaker, and I love the work that she does. So, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
Yeah, I'm excited too. So, tell us a little bit about you. Tell us a little bit about who you are and the impact that you're here to have on the world.
Well, I'm Rihanna. As Carly said, I work as a hypnotherapist and an author and a speaker. I predominantly work with women at this point in time, and I am passionate about helping women to re-embody their feminine essence, to really reconnect to who they are, I guess, at heart and soul level. Because I guess I think we're going to talk about it, but I've come from being a woman that's completely disconnected in all senses, from herself, from her feminine, from her body, from everything, to being a woman now that, I'm not done, but I feel completely different and amazing and radiant, if you want to, for lack of a better word, I guess.
Yeah, and you absolutely are. And I know when we met doing NLP together, which was 4 years ago now,
Yes.
which I can't believe. You were in a very different phase of your life. And so
Yes.
I'd love for you to take us on a bit of a journey as to how life looked how life looked for you back then, and some of the changes
Yep.
that you've made and what you've overcome.
Yeah, so it was 2020. So I think we did it in 2021, but
Oh,
2020, I liken it to me hitting rock bottom. So I was just in this depressive state all the time, and my life on paper looked great. I had a well-paying government job. I've been in the same council for 14 years. I had at the time, I still have them, but they're bigger now. Two young boys. They were only like 1 and 3 at the time. Had a partner, my children's father. I had a house, the white picket fence. I had everything on paper that I thought I ever wanted. And yet I was just so desperately unhappy. But at the same time, I also felt very ungrateful because I did have so much, yet I just couldn't snap myself out of this rut that I was in.
mhm.
And so I began, I'd searched externally for so long for something or someone to fulfill me. And when in 2020, when I hit that rock bottom again, because I'd been there before, it's like I suddenly knew that it was time to actually do something and go internal. And at the same time, I felt the call of the feminine, and it sounds weird, but I just felt this calling of the feminine.
Yeah.
And so I began the journey, and that's when I enrolled in NLP. Didn't even know what it was at the time when I enrolled. I just knew that Juliet Lever was a blonde woman that offered some amazing course. So I
And she
signed
is
up.
amazing.
I was like, I'm like, I don't care what it is, just sign me up and help me out. So I signed up and began the inner journey. And from that inner journey, I did numerous courses with them. So NLP, Master NLP, hypnotherapy, and the advanced hypnotherapy.
Yeah.
But through that, I ended up having to create or wanting to create change in my external world because my inner world was changing so much.
Mhm.
So I ended up pretty much all at once. It was like I blew up my whole life. I ended up leaving that relationship. I ended up quitting my job and not knowing what I was going to do with my life.
Mhm.
I ended up having to sell the family home, and I did end up actually becoming homeless for 9 months with my two boys. Luckily enough, I could, shack up with my mum, but yeah, essentially we were homeless, looking for a house for 9 months, and yeah, I had no income, no nothing, but
Mhm.
I've come out the other side, and I feel amazing.
Yes.
So
And your
that's a little
energy
snippet
is
of it.
so different. Like your energy is just so different. And when you said before you're radiant, like you actually are glowing.
Thank you.
And yeah, it's been such a big journey, and we will talk a little bit on this now, but I can really relate to a lot of what you shared. When you start sort of doing that inner work, it's like anything that's not aligned with that, or aligned with where you're wanting to go, it kind of has a way of falling away, doesn't it? Or
Yeah.
not even has a way of falling away, but it's like you just can't, you can't tolerate living your life that way anymore.
Yeah, it's hard to explain, isn't it? And I
Yeah,
always like I try to explain to people it's not that like my partner ex-partner or in anything I had was not good enough. It's
yeah,
just it was no longer in alignment with who I was at heart and soul level. So I had attracted this life or built this life around a version of me that was not really me, if that makes sense. I know it does to you, but
yeah,
just so the listeners hopefully understand.
yeah.
But then when I began to uncover the real me, it's like, oh shit, it doesn't feel right anymore. It doesn't actually feel good. And this is why perhaps I was feeling so unfulfilled, is because I'd created this life around me based on a different version of myself, a version that was very much, living from a place of fear and lack and self-doubt and, even
Mm.
self-hate at times. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
That's big. And, there's all of these like societal pressures and programs as well that tell us how we should be living and what a successful normal life looks like. And I very much was living that normal life. I had everything on paper, a wonderful man who was my husband, a beautiful little girl, beautiful home in the suburbs, mortgage to the eyeballs. But there was something in me too where I was just like, this is just not it. And it took
Yeah.
me a little while to figure the rest out. And as you know, like I sold the house and we went caravanning for a year. I was like, that's interesting. This hasn't solved the problem. Maybe there is something a little deeper. So it's a really big journey, isn't it? And I know we were just talking before we started recording about how there are a lot of women in particular who are living lives that maybe they're not feeling super aligned with. And
Mm.
so let's talk a little on, what are the cues? What are some of the things that, might be happening or maybe they'd be feeling if they're not living this life that's in alignment for them?
Well, I guess for me, and I know I've spoken with you a little bit about this, is that I used to constantly be questioning, is this it? Is
Yeah.
this all there is to life? Like, and it was, the same routine day in, day out. It was, just always striving for either money or whatever it was, materialistic stuff. And it just felt so empty.
Mhm.
Even though I had, people around me, I just felt so empty.
Yeah.
So that was my main thing, is that it felt like there should be more to life. And for me, it was like everything that I had, as I said, was good, but I just wasn't satisfied. There was no fulfillment there. Like the more I got, the more I searched for, and the less fulfilled I felt. So nothing filled the void of whatever
Mm.
was missing on the inside, and that was me. I went through phases, and I know many women do, where we go on shopping phases. If I just keep buying something, I'll feel better about myself. And it was good for a while, and then I was like, oh shit.
Not doing it.
And then I
Yeah.
had children, and I was like, maybe they'll fill the hole. And look, they did, and they're busy, and they keep me busy, but it still didn't fill the void that I was missing inside. So there's been all these little things that I'm like, oh, maybe that will help, and it just didn't. It was all about me and all about, what is it within me that I need to search for. And yeah, you can't fake that. I don't
Really,
think.
you really can't, can you? No. And so what has sort of the, I guess we talk about doing like the work to kind of uncover this and unpack what's within and identify that. So what has the work kind of looked like for you?
Mm. So when I first started, a lot of it was mindset based.
Mm.
I lived in my head, which I lived in my head my whole life, I guess, up until recently. And I lived out of fear, constantly running things through my head. And it was a good way to live for a while until I knew better.
Yeah.
So a lot of it was mindset work and learning to get my mind to work with my heart. Because before they were sort of, my heart was saying, "Oh, go this way, do that," and my mind was saying, "No, no, go do that, go do the right thing, go do this,
And
go
you would
do what
listen to the
society says."
mind. Yeah, yeah.
I would always listen to the mind because
Yep.
that's what we're taught to do. The mind always wins. And so I had to do a lot of mindset work to undo that conditioning and undo all the fear and the doubt that I'd created through
Mhm.
living through my mind.
Mm.
So that's where I first started, and then I sort of moved into, when I dived into what was in there, and I was like, oh shit, like I've got a lot of untrue beliefs about what it means to be a woman and what it means to be a man, based on, my upbringing and based on my parents and all of that stuff. And I just realized that a lot of my romantic relationships, not that I've had heaps, but like the romantic relationships I've had never felt good And I'm realizing that it's because of me. You know how we
Yeah.
like to blame the other person
Oh
when we
yeah.
leave a relationship? I'm like, oh shit, like it's because of the way I show up as a woman
Yeah.
that, he's showing up in this way, and I don't want him to show up this way. I want him to show up like a man, yet he's showing up differently because of the way I'm showing up. So then I dived into to learning about the masculine and the feminine,
Mm,
and sort of undoing that. And there's been numerous other things, but
yeah.
that's where I've spent most of my time, is in that masculine and feminine space, which is been fun.
Yeah, and that's a space that I am so interested in. And much like you, I've done a lot of like diving into my past relationships, and I have really been able to see where, oh my gosh, like I have not been showing up in my feminine in these relationships, and that's caused then the men to be showing up more in their feminine, right? So
Yes.
maybe let's talk a little bit about that and how the dynamic, maybe how the dynamic played out for you, or how it is playing out in a lot of relationships right now.
Mm. So I guess for me, I believe that I was showing up as a woman, a very masculinized woman. So my masculine energy was prominent over my feminine energy. And actually, when I dived into it, I actually realized that I had beliefs that, the feminine was weak. I didn't even really like being a woman, I don't think, at one point in time, because I just associated it with being such a weak person.
Yeah.
And so I had this real exterior energy about me that, looked like I was confident and cool. And what else did I like? Aloof. I was all of these things. And it was all just a protection mechanism. Like on the inside, I was just this, like, soft.
Yeah.
You could poke me and I probably would have cried. But I had this real exterior about me.
Mhm.
And what was the question?
And so some of the ways that you were showing up in a relationship.
So in a relationship, because of that, I was showing up in a way that, I could do it myself. I was independent. That saying, the independent woman, she can do it for herself.
Yeah.
But I really pushed that on him. I can do it myself. I don't need you. Like, and I wouldn't accept help. And I know this is very common in relationships with men
Yeah.
and women at the moment. I don't need you. I can do it. Even if I didn't want to do it, but like, no, no, I'll do it myself. Because if he did it, that meant I was weak or a failure to me.
Mm.
It also meant that I was showing up in a way that was quite controlling. I didn't realize it at the time, but I needed to feel like I was in control with everything that was happening,
Mhm.
with the household, with the kids when they were there, even with him. I needed to be able to feel like I was in control. And
Mhm.
if I wasn't, I didn't feel safe. Again, I didn't really know that at the time, but that's
Yeah.
how I was showing up. And the other thing was, how else was I showing up? They're the main ones, around control and needing to do it myself. But also, I guess I didn't play into the polarity of the masculine and feminine in terms of the romantic side either, the intimacy side. There was little intimacy that felt good in our relationship because I just didn't allow that to happen. There was intimacy, but it wasn't the real masculine, feminine, that real
Yeah.
juicy stuff.
Absolutely.
There was none of
And
that.
like I can relate to so much of what you just said there in my past relationships too. Like I've always shown up, as the woman who makes the decisions in the relationship, who has
Yep.
everything in order, has everything under control, takes care of all the finances and
Yep.
the schedules and all of that sort of stuff. And it wasn't until sometime after I had left my marriage that I was like, oh, no wonder I felt so drained.
That's right. How
That
exhausting is it?
wasn't like a natural, it didn't feel natural to me. But
No.
of course, like all the programming and how we're brought up, we see, we watch, we then go and repeat those patterns, don't we?
Yes.
So
So I guess the underlying thing there is, which you'll probably realize too, is like there's a lack of trust. Even if you love your partner, there was a real lack of trust for me to be able to let go, surrender, and for him to step up.
yes,
And I guess it continued to play out that way, like more like, mother-child type
yes,
situation in many ways, because I didn't allow him to step up, so he didn't step up. And so we
yeah,
had this dynamic where it's like I was the matriarch over the whole household, and yuck, I don't like that.
yeah, no, and I feel you on that as well. And like it didn't feel good. And now starting to understand more about it, it's like, well, yeah, it makes sense that it didn't feel good because I was sort of out of my my natural way of being a woman. So
Yeah.
maybe let's sort of talk about that a little bit. Like, what are some of the, at a high level, like some of the more feminine kind of characteristics that, we are going to feel more flowy and we are going to feel more natural if we let ourselves sink
Yeah.
as.
So one of the biggest ones for me is softness and surrender. And again, I used to like cringe at those type of words. I was like, ugh, how can I surrender? How can I be soft when I have to do all these things? But
Yes.
actually, you can still be a woman doing shit, and be soft and be able to surrender. So in a relationship, surrender, and I have to be open. I'm not in a relationship, and I haven't been able to practice this to the extent that I want.
Yeah.
But in a relationship, surrender it's not about surrendering to a man, because I know a lot of women are like, that puts him in the power position.
Yeah.
It's about surrendering to the love that is there between you, and surrendering to the moment, I guess. And in
Mhm.
life, for me, it's been about surrendering to what is, and allowing things just to go with the flow rather than holding on so tightly.
Mm.
If something happens and, I work a part-time job at the moment. If I lost my job tomorrow, I'd be like, oh, shit, but
Yeah.
what comes next? Whereas
Yeah.
before it used to be like my world was like falling apart around me if
Mm.
something like that would happen, because, oh my God, I need to hold on tightly. Otherwise, I'm not going to be able to survive. So
Yeah.
surrender is a big one. And to be able to
Mm.
surrender, you actually have to have a deep sense of trust in yourself, but also in like the universe, if you like.
Yeah.
It's like your path doesn't unfold until you take the first step. And that's where I used to fall apart. It's like, well, I don't want to take a step because I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
Whereas, the universe asks you to let go, take a step, and then your path will begin to unfold. It's like walking through fog when you
Yes,
surrender and
exactly.
trust. It's like, oh shit, I
Mm.
don't know where I'm going, but I'm going to take that first step. And oh, look, there it is. The next step unfolds.
Mm.
And that feels so good, to be in that flowy state as opposed to being in that real rigid, tight, controlled state.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, even if we think we're in control, like, how much are we ever really in control?
Never in control, are we? We can think we are, but we're not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. But yeah, what you just said then about allowing it to unfold, it's like we do have to take that first step, right?
Mm,
I know I have been that woman before who was like, I just want things to be different, but I wasn't prepared to take that
no.
first step.
Yeah.
But it's like once you do, then things do start to unfold, but it's not always like a, straight and narrow kind of road.
No, so you just got to loosen your grip a little bit, and you might
Yeah.
not like. I know you did big changes all at once too.
Yes.
I don't ever actually recommend doing it the way I did it, and
No.
blowing up everything at the same time. But like if you loosen your grip on one thing in
Yeah.
life, something will change there, and then it will make room for the next thing. And if you loosen your grip there, something will change over there, and you can do
Mm,
little stages along, little bits along the way, and it feels good to loosen the
yeah.
grip and to go with the flow. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, like small steps are more than okay. And I know I had a
Yeah.
conversation with someone the other day and they were in their business and they were wanting to kind of shift away from, what they were doing and sort of pivot their business. And that can be a really like big thing for some people. Or even just,
Yes.
shifting the kinds of offers that you talk about. But allowing yourself to just kind of trust in yourself, trust in the universe, and
Mm,
know that it all starts with you making that decision to actually take a step forward.
it does. Yeah. And I guess for me in business, I've pivoted, oh, like in 4 years, I've probably pivoted at least four times
Yeah.
majorly.
Mm-hmm.
I was all about confidence and self-worth. I think I was even calling myself the confidence coach at one point.
Yep.
And then I was like, well, this doesn't feel good anymore. Like
Yep.
I don't want it anymore. And so I pivoted,
Mm.
and I pivoted, somewhere else for a little while, but then I landed in working with women in pregnancy,
Yeah.
in infertility. And I'm like, well, how the hell did I land here? I don't know, but like that's where I was led. And
Yeah.
so I worked with women around infertility for a while, and even
Mm.
wrote a book, in that space. And then again, it didn't feel good after a while. And I'm like, I'm not meant to be here anymore. And so I have to pivot again. And that's when I was led into working with the masculine and feminine. Actually, I was led to work with men for a little while.
Mm.
And I worked with men for a year last year. And then again, I was like, oh shit, not
Yeah.
again.
Isn't it interesting how, we pivot, and I'm very much like you. I've pivoted more times than I can count. And I
Yeah.
used to really make myself like wrong for it. I used to be like, oh, Carly, like,
Yeah.
why can't you just stick to one thing?
No.
Kind of tried that in some other areas of my life, and I wasn't honoring what was in here. And I think it's like it's okay to move, like, because as we evolve as humans, like naturally what we want to create, who we want to work with, the way we want to live our life is going to shift and it's going to change. And that gets to
Yeah.
be okay.
100%. Well, and I also think when you're on this inner journey, it's like, you get to a level and then it's like when you do a bit more work, you get to another level and there's something else under there. And that's when, perhaps it's not so aligned, to work in a particular space anymore because you've gone deeper. So you
Yeah.
want to be able to offer that deeper level to people as well. And,
Yeah.
that's what I guess I've been honoring, and I know you have too, is honoring that
Mm,
along the way. It's like I've gone deeper now. I can still help people at that first level,
yeah.
but I want more. Like I want to
Yes.
be able to offer more. And I don't know if it's okay if I start talking about where I'm going.
That's what I was going to ask next. Yes, please.
Yeah, because I guess over the 4 years, I've been on this intense journey of working through, different stages of uncovering who I am.
Mhm.
And so now I'm at the point where like I'm ready to offer a program for women, an online program that goes through those there's four very distinct stages that I went through over the last 4 years. And
Mhm.
I've been able to condense it into, like an 8-week program. It's like there's the blueprint, for you to uncover yourself and through the feminine in that it took me 4 years, but
Yeah.
here's 8 weeks and you've
That's
got the
right.
blueprint and you can go use that and do the work if you choose so
Yeah.
that you can, uncover who you are.
Mm.
And so, I really feel grateful that I've had the courage to pivot and to continue to do what I do
Yeah.
so that I've got here and have now, once it's ready, be able to offer this program to women as a big journey, as opposed to maybe just little sections of it that I've done along the way.
Yeah, I love this so much. And just highlighting the fact that you said the courage that it has taken, because it takes so
Yeah,
much courage to move
so
and
much.
to, whether it's the big life changes or even the what might be perceived as smaller things, it still takes courage to let go of what you've known and to honor that you want more and that you want to move towards
Mm,
something different. So I love that. And then in terms of the program, which I'm very excited to see being birthed, it's on its way.
yes.
Is there anything that you would sort of love to share with us, a little like a little bit of an overview about some of the things that you're going to take these women through, maybe?
Yeah, so the program, I'll just talk about it a little bit.
Mm.
It will be called She Remembers, and it's going to take women through an archetypal type journey. So as I said, I went through four distinct stages when over the last 4 years,
Yeah.
and every stage that I've been through, I've likened it to an archetype. It's my own archetype. It's no one else's. That
Mhm.
I'm sure there's similar ones out there, but these are the ones that I've been through. And so the first archetype, the awakened woman, is all about the mindset. So, getting in control of the mind, releasing the emotions that are keeping you stuck in those cycles that, you're no longer serving you, and also looking at undoing and breaking the ancestral patterns and chains. And then we move into the feminine woman, and that is learning all about, the masculine and the feminine and polarity, and also your inner child and how you carry the wounds, from your mum and dad. If you're not aware
Mm.
of them, they actually influence how you show up as a woman. And then
Yeah.
we move into the spiritual woman, and she's all about, connecting to your soul path and your purpose and the, the unseen realms and remembering the magic that's out there in the universe,
Yeah.
because, when I said, is there more to life? There sure is.
Fuck yes, there is.
And there's magic everywhere.
Yes.
You just have to believe. So
Totally feel
that's
that.
that's the spiritual woman. And then the final one, which is my most recent journey, is the wild woman. And she is, the natural woman connected to the earth, but also the woman who's liberated in her body,
Hmm.
and also liberated sexually. And
Mm.
and so she's the woman that, at the end, you come out the other side and you just know who you are. She's that woman, that sort of wisdom that comes from within. So I'm
Mm.
still on that journey, but yeah, it's a fun one, that one.
Oh, sounds
So
it.
that's what we'll
Yeah.
go through in
Amazing.
8 weeks,
Mm.
which is exciting. I'm excited to offer it.
Mm. And who is this for? Like, what sort of woman is this for?
I guess it's for the woman who is questioning, is surely there's more to life than this, perhaps I think I've said to you, like I believe this is for women who have already awakened to some level.
Yeah.
You're aware that there's more out there. You're aware that, you're doing these repeating patterns and cycles. You're aware of it, but
Yeah.
you're just not sure what to do with it. You're not sure where to
Mm.
start. You're in a journey. And so this is for these women that are aware but ready to do something about it, and to
Yeah.
create change.
What an amazing journey. And
Yeah.
that's the thing, we're not just creating the change for ourselves, are we? Like, we're
No.
creating this change for every single person that we go out and touch in the world, our children, especially. And I think it's so powerful for our kids to witness us women actually following our hearts and allowing ourselves to do this work and to make decisions and to find what feels good, because it then gives them the permission to do that too, I think.
100%. And like, you don't have to have kids to do this type of work, but like, I
Mm.
look at my boys and I'm like, I am so grateful to myself for going on this journey, because who I am for them is so different to who I was
Yes.
4 years ago. I was just a shell of a woman that just would yell at the drop of a hat. I had nothing for myself. And, I don't want them to grow up thinking that women are just there to do things around the house and that type of stuff. So
Yeah.
now I'm able, I still have my moments, don't get me wrong.
We're human.
Yeah. But like, I'm very aware of it, and the
Yeah.
conversations, my boys are 5 and 7, and the conversations that we have already are just mind blowing. Like,
That's cool.
some of them are deeper conversations than what I can have with adults. It's
Wow.
I love it.
Oh, that's so cool.
So
I
fun.
just think it's very, very important work. So,
Yes.
I would love to know, what are you manifesting? What are you calling into your life right now?
What am I calling it? I'm calling him my man.
Yoo-hoo! I think there's a few of us who are.
I'm ready.
Yes.
And so this is a thing, I was also the woman that would be like, where are all the good men? Where are all the conscious men? Where are all these men? And look, don't get me wrong, we still need a few more out there,
Yeah.
but they are out there, and I believe we can't actually visually see them, and we're not aware of them until we've done enough work to get to the point where they actually just are there. And so
Exactly.
I'm practicing what I preach, and also, I'm practicing the feminine process, if you like,
Yeah.
of not chasing or not searching. I'm
Yeah.
waiting.
Love it. I love that
I'm
so much.
waiting for him to appear,
Yeah.
and I know he's coming. I just have to, have to wait. And I liken it to the honey and the bee, or the flower, the flower just sits there waiting for the bee to come along, and he does.
Yes.
And you just have to wait your time. So yes, that's what I'm manifesting. Also manifesting some beautiful women into my course. So
Yes, and that is happening, of course. Oh, that's beautiful. And so for the woman who is sort of sitting here listening to this and going like, oh, I'm feeling like maybe I'm a little bit unfulfilled in my life. I'm feeling like I'm a bit dissatisfied. I'm feeling like something needs to change, but I don't necessarily know what. What
Hmm.
advice would you give her?
I guess my advice would be to firstly just start, however it looks, whatever it looks like, to start to spend time with yourself,
Mm,
and start to, like, I know everyone says the inner journey, but what does that mean? It
yeah.
means start to listen to your thoughts, and start to go in more. So start to go into your
Mm,
heart, whether that's through meditation, whether that's through a women's circle, whether that's through, an online program, whatever it looks like, however you can do it. Get out in nature.
mhm,
Start to listen to what's in there. Because your heart, your soul is talking to you all the time. And that's where, as a woman who's, on the feminine journey or the soul-led journey, that's where the information comes from. It's here. And
yeah.
we only hear that in the quiet moments. We don't hear it when we're watching TV. We don't hear it when we're at work. We don't hear it, whatever.
Scrolling
We
the
only
dating
hear it when
apps.
we stop. Yeah, we only hear it when we stop
Yeah.
and actually listen.
Yeah.
And I know that can be a scary thing for a lot of people, because it's like, well, what happens if I hear something? You're
Yeah.
gonna
Yeah.
you're
Then
gonna
what do I
hear
do?
something.
Have
And
to
and
face
so
it.
sometimes, I know, and sometimes when
Yeah.
I hear what's in there now, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sake.
Again. Give me a
So
break.
take it with a grain of salt. And so, my other advice is, sometimes you hear things but it doesn't mean you have to put it in place right then. So for me, I've heard
Yeah.
things and it's taken a year or two for me to actually go down that path, but I've planted the seed.
Mm,
My heart, my soul is telling me this is what's coming. I'm preparing myself now for what I need to do down the track.
yeah, I love that.
Some of the changes that I made in my life, I knew they were coming, but I
Mm,
just didn't do them straight away because I needed to prepare myself. The reality is that we all need to survive.
yeah.
So some of the things, if you need to make those big moves, you can be aware of them, but
Yeah.
it's take the time to then plan that and get ready for it. You don't have to do it straight away. And I think that's what people are scared of. And
Yeah.
also the other thing is just because you go inward and start this inner journey doesn't mean you're going to have to blow up your whole life. Because
Yes.
I know a lot of women that their relationships have got better because
Yep.
they've done the work. Like that they've enjoyed their work more because they've done the inner work.
Yeah. Good
Just
point.
because you and I have had to blow up our life doesn't mean that you have to. Like
Yeah. That was
so
our journey, right?
that
And
was our
everyone's,
journey.
yeah,
Yeah.
journey is going to be completely different. And that's a really good point to highlight, actually, because I think that, some people are kind of a little bit scared, like, oh my God, is
Uh,
everything going to change? Well, it doesn't necessarily have to at all. Things can
no.
just get stronger and even better than what they are already.
Yes, yes. So as long as you're like committed to continuing to follow the path, and if you're
Yeah.
with someone and they're following their own path, things can be amazing. I've seen it
Yeah.
happen with other women and
Me
it's
too.
beautiful to watch. But yeah, it's just trusting that whatever's there, that's what you got to listen to. And when
Mm,
the thoughts come in and when the fear's there and the doubt, it's just keep going back to here and keep listening.
mm,
But also, work with someone like, a
yeah.
coach or a hypnotherapist or a
Yeah.
therapist or whatever. Work with someone to be your support team. Because if I didn't have the help along the way, I wouldn't be where I was today. And
Yeah.
I'm working with Carly now and I'm working with some other people for other stuff, and it's like I still need the support because I want to
Absolutely.
keep bettering myself.
Yeah.
So
It is an ongoing journey, isn't it? And it's
yes,
it's really interesting. I know when I sort of started, I was like, oh, okay, great. I'm done. It's
done.
like, no, no, no. You've just dipped your toes in, sweetheart.
Yeah. And so now with money, because I know money comes into play too, I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't even like most of the time sometimes, but most of the time I don't even bat an eyelid. I'm like, oh, I'll find the money. Like
Yeah.
I just need to do this
Yeah.
because I need to keep going. So trust again that the money will flow when
Yes.
you need it for these types of things too. Because that's a tricky thing for a lot of people too, I know.
Yeah, that's actually a really good point. And that's something that I've been leaning into in the past, probably, maybe 6 to 12 months, is really like leaning into money, being an
Mm,
energy, right? And, understanding that it's always in flow, it's always coming in, it's always circulating, it's always coming in and it's
yeah.
always going out. And that's just allowed me to like loosen my grip because I used to be
Yes.
very like, I
Um,
can't spend $1 if it's not budgeted or whatever.
that's right. Yeah, and again, there's reality. You need money for your
Of
family. You need that
course.
type of
Yeah.
stuff. But again, the more you loosen and the more you allow it to flow, and if you're putting back
Yes.
into yourself, you're stepping up in your frequency, so more money will naturally come into play eventually as well. So, don't get me wrong, I've been through some very, very hard times, but
Yeah.
you get through and you come out the other side, and money starts to flow. So, feels good.
Absolutely. And can
Yeah.
you talk a little bit about as well, that piece around building the trust, right? It's like when we hear or we feel this nudge or we hear something, how can we trust it? Like, do you have any sort of practices or anything that you could share around building that self-trust? Because I know that's a big thing. A lot of
Mm.
people let their head get in the way because it feels easier to just kind of go with the
Mm.
head rather than the heart. They haven't built that
Yeah.
trust yet.
Yeah, so I guess it depends where you're at in the journey, but to
Mm,
build the trust, firstly, you have to become aware of those thoughts that are getting in the way. And I know you know these things, but those limiting beliefs and all of the emotions that are sort of linked to all of that stuff, and also your past experiences. Like you have to be at a point where you're able to process them. They're still going to
mm,
be there, but you've processed them to the point where they're no longer affecting you consciously.
yeah.
So, a lot of the women that I've worked with at the start, it's like, okay, let's really work on the mindset so that you can come down here and actually trust what's happening here. Because if
Yeah.
you're still up here, which is
Yeah.
where I started, you
Yeah.
just can't actually be there. It's like, well, I'm not going to listen
That's
to
it.
this guy when,
Yeah.
all of this is going on here. It's way too strong.
Yeah. This makes more
Um,
sense.
it does make more
Yeah.
sense. And this
Typically.
doesn't often make sense. It's not logical
Yeah.
at all. You
Exactly.
know, and what comes from here, it's like, oh my God, it's
Yeah.
just
Yeah.
crazy.
That's the
Um,
thing. And
and you'll
it's,
be judged and you'll like worry what your family thinks of you and all of these things. And it's like, if you've
yeah.
got this controlling you, you ain't going to be able to listen or trust down here. So it's work on the mindset first, for
Yeah,
sure.
really, really good tip. And knowing as well that this isn't going to make sense all the time, a lot of the time.
No.
And it's okay if it doesn't make sense to everybody else, because I think a lot of women are making decisions based on what people are going to think of them, based on
Yeah.
worrying that they're going to hurt somebody or they're going to, upset someone who's got expectations of them. And that's why I think a lot of people make decisions from here. It's
Yeah,
like,
and I agree, particularly for women, it's guilt and responsibility that comes
yeah,
into play. You know, if
yeah.
I do this for myself, what is that going to look like? I'm selfish. I should be doing this instead or whatever. But ultimately, if you're showing up as the best version of yourself and you feel good and you're radiant and you're like open and you know, from a place of love,
Hmm.
you're going to be showing up 100% better for whoever it is that you are needing to show up with.
Yeah.
And as I said, with like in my previous relationship, the moment that I started to step back, it's like, holy shit, he actually like stepped up. I had to leave that relationship for him to do that.
Yes.
But
Yeah.
he's actually can do shit.
Yeah. It's funny that,
So
isn't it?
he's an adult. I didn't realize in my
Yeah.
relationship.
Yeah. Yeah.
Hopefully he doesn't listen. But
I'm
like
sure he won't.
he's a better dad, he's a better person, and he would probably admit that too now, like
Yeah.
you know, 4 years later. But like because I had to let go of doing everything for him, he stepped up. And actually the same type of pattern happened with my mum. I was very much had to be responsible and felt like I had to do everything for her. The
Mm,
moment I stepped back, it's like, oh shit, she can actually do everything for herself. You know, I don't have to
yeah.
cook her dinner every night, or I don't have to text her every day to see if she's okay, or you know, all these things that I thought I had to do to be the responsible daughter, which felt very draining.
Mm,
You know, now I do them when I want to because it feels good, not because I
yes.
feel like I have to. So,
Very
yeah,
important
as
distinction.
women, we've got a lot to undo in that space.
We really do. And Rihanna's program can help you with
Yes,
that.
it can. Yes, it
Where,
can. Come along.
yeah, where can everybody find you?
So my main two things are Instagram, so it's just Riannah.Roach, and also TikTok, for the TikTok lovers out there, Riannah.Roach, I think it is as well. I do have a website, but it's you know, I update it sometimes. So come
Yeah,
along to social media.
that's really good.
And yeah, I always put everything up on there, and I'll be launching the program at the end of the year to start next year. So
Amazing. Yeah. So if you
yeah.
want the details, then pop over, give Rihanna a follow.
Yep,
And yeah, you'll be one of the first to hear about it.
correct.
Um,
Yep.
yeah, what an amazing conversation. Thank
Fun.
you. Yeah,
And
it
we've
was
only
lovely.
touched the surface. There's so much. So
Oh, I
keep
know. We could be here for
it's,
hours.
yeah.
Oh, I loved this. Thank you so much for joining us. And yeah, we'll chat soon.
Thanks, Carly. Bye.